You will die with your potential buried inside you. Not because you weren't smart enough, not because you weren't talented enough, but because you spent your entire life waiting for permission that was never coming. And the worst part? The people who took what should have been yours weren't better than you. They were just willing to do one thing you weren't. They moved like they had already won. Right now, there's a version of your life happening somewhere in a parallel universe. In that life, you didn't hesitate, you didn't ask, you didn't shrink. And that version of you is living the life you think about at 3 a.m. when you can't sleep. The career, the respect, the power, everything. The only difference between you and him? He killed the voice that you're still obeying. The one that whispers, wait, not yet. What if they judge you? That voice has stolen more from you than any enemy ever could. And if you don't suffocate it in the next few minutes, you'll reach 40, 50, 60 years old and realize you've been a ghost in your own life, watching, waiting, wasting. This ends now, because what I'm about to show you isn't theory, it's not motivation. It's a psychological weapon that's been used by kings, conquerors, and the kind of men who reshape reality just by entering a room. And by the end of this, you'll either become dangerous or you'll go back to being forgettable. Your choice. Let me tell you about two men in the court of ancient Rome. The first man, Marcus, was brilliant, genuinely brilliant, military strategist, philosopher, the smartest person in any room. But Marcus had a problem. He needed everyone to know he was right. In every meeting, he'd explain, justify, cite sources. He'd say things like, well, actually, and if you consider the data. The second man was Lucius. Average intelligence, mediocre family, no prestigious education. But Lucius had something Marcus didn't. He spoke like the conversation was already over. When Marcus presented a military strategy, he'd spend 20 minutes explaining why it would work, anticipating objections, softening his language. I think we could consider, perhaps if we... Does that make sense? When Lucius presented his plan, he'd say, we march at dawn, through the northern pass. Any questions? And then he'd go silent. Not awkward silence, predatory silence, the kind that dares you to challenge him. Guess who became emperor? Not the smartest one, the most certain one. And here's the poison pill Marcus never swallowed. The world doesn't reward competence, it rewards the appearance of inevitability. You think you're waiting to be qualified. You're actually training people to see you as someone who needs permission. Right now, inside your head, there's a war, and you're losing. On one side is the person you could become, the one who takes what he wants, who speaks and expects compliance, who walks into rooms like he owns the oxygen. On the other side is the servant, that voice that says, don't be too much. What if they don't like it? Maybe I should wait. I don't want to seem arrogant. That's not humility, that's domestication. You were trained, systematically trained, to ask for permission, to seek approval, to make yourself smaller so others feel comfortable. Your parents did it, your teachers did it, society did it. They turned you into a well-behaved dog who waits for treats. And the sickest part? You think that's you. It's not. It's programming. And if you don't delete it, you'll spend your entire life watching confident idiots take everything you deserved while you stood there with better ideas and zero execution. Here's your first kill order. Every time you want to say sorry when you didn't do anything wrong, stop. Replace it with silence. Let the moment hang there. Let them feel uncomfortable for once. Every time you want to over-explain, cut yourself off mid-sentence. Say what needs to be said and stop. Watch how people scramble when you don't give them the comfort of your justification. Every time you shrink in a room, physically expand. Sit wider, stand taller, take up space like you're entitled to it, because you are. The servant dies through starvation. Stop feeding him your energy. There was a CEO I knew, won't name the company, but you'd recognize it, who did something that changed my entire understanding of power. In executive meetings, everyone would come prepared. Charts, data, presentations. They'd talk for minutes, sometimes hours, making their case. This CEO, he'd sit at the head of the table and say nothing. Absolutely nothing. For the first 30 minutes, he'd just watch, stone-faced, unreadable. People would pitch ideas. He'd stare. They'd get nervous, start over-explaining, justifying, filling the silence with weakness. And here's what he told me later. In the first 30 minutes, I don't learn about the ideas. I learn who breaks first, who needs my approval, who's afraid of my judgment. That tells me everything I need to know about who has power and who's pretending. He was running a psychological experiment on his own team, and the ones who stayed calm, who didn't chase his validation, who could sit in silence without crumbling, those were the ones he promoted. The lesson? Silence is violence in a world full of people desperate to be heard. When you stop talking, stop explaining, stop filling every gap with noise, you force others to deal with their own discomfort, and discomfort reveals truth. Most men are so terrified of silence, they'll confess things you didn't even ask about. They'll negotiate against themselves. They'll lower their price, their standards, their self-respect, just to make the silence stop. Not you, not anymore. You're going to weaponize the pause. When someone asks you something they have no right to ask, you're going to look at them and let 3 full seconds pass before you respond, or don't respond at all. Just hold eye contact and watch them squirm. Because powerful men don't rush to fill voids, they create them. Let me destroy something you believe right now. You think your words matter. They don't. Not the way you think. People don't remember what you said. They remember how certain you sounded when you said it. I've watched men with PhDs get ignored in boardrooms while college dropouts commanded attention. Why? Vocal tonality, pacing, the psychological weight behind their words. Here's the formula that changes everything. Lower pitch plus slower tempo plus fewer words equals unconscious submission from listeners. It's neurological. When you speak slowly, deeply, and with finality, you trigger the same brain patterns people experience around authority figures, their parents, their bosses, people they've been conditioned to obey. You're not having a conversation, you're installing compliance. Try this right now. Say this sentence out loud. I don't think that's going to work. Now say it again, but drop your voice, speak 30% slower, pause between think and that's, and remove the I don't think entirely, and just say, that won't work. Feel the difference? The first is a suggestion, the second is a verdict. From now on, you speak in verdicts. No more, I feel like maybe we should, what if we considered, I could be wrong, but that's not conversation. That's self-sabotage wrapped in politeness. Instead, we're doing this. That's incorrect. Here's what happens next. And when someone challenges you, here's the nuclear option. Don't defend, don't debate, just look at them and say, I disagree. Then stop talking. The silence that follows is excruciating for them, not you. They'll either back down or escalate. Either way, you've revealed who they are, and you've shown everyone watching that you don't negotiate your reality. There's a billionaire. He's been on magazine covers, built multiple companies, told me about the moment that changed his life. He was 28, had been working on a startup for 3 years, sleeping 4 hours a night, living on ramen. Finally got a meeting with a major investor who could change everything. He pitched for an hour, showed the data, explained the vision, laid his entire soul on that conference table. The investor looked at him and said, "This is cute, but you're not built for this level. Come back when you've matured." Most people would have been devastated, would have gone home, questioned everything, maybe given up. You know what he did? He stood up, didn't say a word, walked out, didn't shake hands, didn't say thank you, just left. And on the drive home, something clicked. That rejection wasn't about his idea, it was about his energy. He had walked in seeking validation, hoping to be chosen, radiating need. So he killed that version of himself. He stopped pitching, started announcing, stopped seeking investors, made them come to him, stopped explaining his vision, executed it publicly until it was undeniable. 3 years later, that same investor called him, begging to get in, offering triple the original terms. And here's the brutal part. He said no. Not because he was petty, because that investor had already revealed something. He couldn't spot power when it was hungry, which meant he couldn't be trusted when it mattered. The lesson that changes everything? Rejection is not failure, it's reconnaissance. It shows you who's blind, who can't recognize value, who doesn't deserve access to you. And the only correct response to rejection is transformation. You don't cry, you don't chase, you don't prove them wrong through words. You vanish, you evolve, you return when they can't afford not to notice. Here's what separates the confident from the untouchable.